Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. It's coming on, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the Institute of Contemporary Studies, Bangalore, Chennai Center for China Studies, and the Press Institute of India for having given me this opportunity to speak on a revival of shipbuilding through PPP, a topic very close to my heart. I'd also like to thank the chair, Vice Admiral Muralidharan, who had been my naval colleague for over 4 decades. We used to very fondly call him Murali. So Murali, thank you very much for the very generous introduction. I will straight away go on to the topic. Murali has already said that India has been a leading shipbuilding country, and which continued till almost till the middle of the 19th century, whereafter there was a downward trend for technological and industrial reasons. But in my presentation, I will be focusing only on the post-independence part of it, and that also what happened the last 50 years. And more so, a little more focus on the last 20 years, where policies have been changed by the government. And I would like to script what can be done now onwards to boost this maritime capability so that our overall maritime capability is enhanced. I have a very short presentation of about 10 slides. And I'll start with the first slide. Scope of shipbuilding in India, I can put it into 2 buckets. One is the commercial ships and others the defense vessels. And the number of shipyards we have today, public sector are 7 in number, 5 are under MOD or MOS. MOS stands for Ministry of Shipping. Cochin shipyard is under MOS, the rest all under MOD. 2 are with states, Gujarat, West Bengal. And private sector, there are about 10 shipyards at the moment. There were more earlier, I'll come to it a little later. But at the moment, there are about 10 shipyards which are functional. You will agree with me, ships are built on land and then put into water. So there's land-water interface which has to be available as a part of infrastructure, be it in the form of dry dock, ship lift, jetties, shipyards, etc. They're all very expensive, capital-intensive infrastructure, which the government has invested in a big way, and some private entities also have invested in the last couple of decades. Now, how has the shipbuilding progressed in the commercial ships? We'll take first. As far as commercial ships are concerned, in the last 20 years, India's contribution has been just about 1% of global production, average, I mean. There has been a peak, of course, in 2007 to 2012, which touched 3.5%. But there are other reasons for this peak. There was a very big demand in the oil sector. There was also a subsidy program which is being run by the government at that point of time, almost concurrently. So shipbuilding had picked up, and more importantly, few private sector shipyards had come into operation. So you had capacity enhancement at the time. There was a demand which was higher, and there was a subsidy going on. All 3 factors enabled us to achieve the peak. But when this happened, most of our PSUs were engaged in defense projects, which even today, they are mostly engaged in defense projects. And 2 of them, Cochin Shipyard and the Hindustan Shipyard, have infrastructure to build commercial ship of 1 lakh ton TWT or a little more in case of Cochin. But despite that capability, they have been largely focusing on defense production. Today, Ministry of Shipping has got an ongoing subsidy scheme, which is around 16% now. Earlier it was 20%. Year after year, it slowly comes down. Primary aim being to encourage shipbuilding. But despite this ship subsidy scheme, the government continues to nominate CSL for many of its requirement be it in Laccadives, be it in Andaman Nicobar, or whether Shipping Corporation of India wants some additional vessels. So that has been going on. Why I'm saying this is, it has not been a level playing field between the private and the public from the Ministry of Shipping side. They have only one shipyard under them, that is Cochin. So they have been giving some contracts to them unilaterally. That doesn't matter, but the fact is there's a subsidy scheme which is available for everyone. But the subsidy scheme has not produced the results which they are looking for. Reason is threefold. The quantum which they are gaining, it looks fairly impressive. It was around 20%, now it's around 16%. But the import content of materials and machinery for shipbuilding is very high as far as India is concerned. So you have to import, you import at a higher cost. So it actually puts you in a disadvantage with competitors from global side. Design talented is limited in India. So you have to buy a design from abroad, which is going to be more expensive. You may have to test the design if it's a first time design, which means again testing is abroad, you'll spend more money. And lastly, there is huge competition from, it was Korea, China, now it has become China, Korea, Vietnam in that order. So you find that the Indian shipyards today, even though they have a subsidy scheme, they are not able to attract sufficient orders. I told you some time back, the public sector shipyards except CSL is not interested in commercial shipbuilding. So who is left is only CSL and private sector shipyards. And all the private sector shipyards which are functional today have infrastructure limitation. They can't build big ships. They can only build small ships. So you find the sector in which you're competing globally has got far too much of competitors, plus all the disadvantages you have by way of import, design, and competition. You find shipbuilding is getting stalled in India. Commercial shipbuilding today is stalled in India, and I don't see a great future for commercial shipbuilding unless some fundamental changes are introduced by the government. We'll touch upon it towards the end of the presentation. So as it stands, it is CSL plus few private access shipyards which can build very, very small vessels. And that's not good. We don't even touch 1% of global production of commercial ships. What the government can do, I think they should extend the incentives to owners and not to the shipbuilders. It can be in lieu of the subsidy, because today owners want to go and buy from abroad. I read in the paper today that the Ministry of Shipping is coming up with a bill that you can have an Indian flagship as long as there is 51% of ownership by the cost of the vessel or by the price of the vessel. Earlier it was 100%. So you have an incentive for the owner to have a joint ownership along with a foreign party. So if you can give incentive to the Indian owners, you will find the more orders may be placed on Indian shipyards. Second, the FRR option should be given to Indian shipyard. That means first right of refusal. In short, government should encourage domestic production, and Indian shipyards have to say they cannot build it before they can buy from abroad. I think that will do some good. The few years from now, you will find Indian shipbuilding will pick up. At the moment, they desperately want some measures like this. Second aspect, and it's going to be time consuming to realize this, domestic manufacturing potential of marine machinery, marine equipment, mostly electronic equipment, has to be enhanced. Imports have to get reduced. Otherwise, you will find that Indian shipbuilders will continue to be at a disadvantage, financial disadvantage, as far as price is concerned. And in fact, the government's call of Atmanirbhar is almost the same. Try and produce as much of Indian machinery, Indian equipment into our ships. Third point, and which is more relevant now, the government requires 1,000 vessels, small vessels, up to 2,000 DWT for their Sagarmala program. In fact, the Sagarmala program should have kicked off by 2018. It has not happened. Today we are in 2020. It has still not happened enough. It may pick up in another year or so, but they do require about 1,000 ships for the next 10 years. So this is well within the capacity of the Indian shipyard. It is also well within the capacity of the infrastructure of Indian shipyards. And they can be put to use for inland water transportation. So the government needs to look at this opportunity to make sure the first 2 points which I said, incentive to owners as well as enhancing domestic manufacturing potential, if these two can be introduced along with the Sagarmala program, you will find the shipbuilding will pick up, and thereafter it will climb to a higher share of global production. The last point, which can be discussed, which can be debated, there is a study which has been done in China that they feel shipyards do better if they do both commercial and defense ships. The managerial talent, the managerial philosophy and style required in commercial ships is different from defense ships. Defense ships are a little more commitment is there from the owner. He is prepared to wait for some more time. He is a little acceptable to some change in specification, which doesn't happen in commercial ships. I think shipyards do a far better job when they execute a commercial ship, because their entire contract depends on how well they achieve in time as well as in quality. So Chinese experiment shows that it is better to have shipyards, not all shipyards, selected shipyards, do both commercial and defense, so that the work culture as well as the managerial style is improved and the shipyards become more efficient. We can debate on this if there's a requirement after the presentation. Now I shift over to defense ships. Defense shipbuilding till 2000, it started sometime in mid-60s. It has been only in public sector till 2000. The design has been by Navy. Not surprising, there has been a lack of coordination, and this has been a matter of concern not only for the Navy but also for the shipyard, but it remains fairly unresolved even to date. There's a lot of issues on when you have two agencies, one designing and one constructing, and you find they are not able to converge on all the issues in good time. In 30 years, the last 30 years, many classes of ship were built for Navy and Coast Guard, with almost every class having suffered time and cost overrun. It has shown us that we have suffered on this front. So sometime in mid-90s, MOD initiated induction of private sector shipyards. They said you can come into this fray and perhaps there will be some change in shipbuilding efficiency. So sometime in mid-90s, government cleared private sector shipyards can come. Many shipyards came into production after that. I'll touch upon it in the next slide. So if I take stock of 2000, by the year 2000, Navy and Coast Guard had 96 indigenously built ships, almost all by PSUs except 10 in number interceptor boats given by Anderson Marine Goa to the Coast Guard. Rest all have been by public sector. Of course, these 10 in number boats had a huge amount of import content. That apart, they are very small ships. So if you look at the overall production, it was mostly public sector participation and very little from private except for Anderson Marine. That is till the year 2000. Let us see what happened in the last 20 years. from 2000 to 2020. New private sector shipyards came. I've listed a few of them, few important of them. ABG, Bharati, L&T, Pipavav, which became Reliance later, and Shaft. They all entered fray, and all of them got their first defense order by 2011. Because when Defense Ministry cleared induction of private sector shipyards by 1999, these shipyards started establishing themselves. Some had improved upon already existing infrastructure. Some other shipyards were created de novo, and you found that they had competed and they have been able to get some defense order by 2011. In the year 2000 to 2020, Navy had added 59 indigenously built ships and Coast Guard 163 vessels. So you see a huge difference between the number of ships of Navy and the vessels of Coast Guard. There's a reason for it. Coast Guard vessels were very small vessels, while the Navy's ships were very big vessels. The Navy's 59 ships comprised 55 from PSUs and 4 from private, very small representation by private, which included the FDN-2, which is presently in Port Blair, 2 sail ships, Tarini and I think there's a mistake here, it's not made, it is Madhe, and TRV Astradharani. These are the 4 ships which were built in private sector. And obviously, only the auxiliary vessels were built in private yards in the 20 years from 2000 onwards. Rest all 55 warships for the Navy were built in PSUs. There could be a reason for it. We'll look at it a little later. But there's a distinct grouping which has emerged if you look at the last 20 years. If you look at Coast Guard got 101 from private yards and 62 from PSUs. And all of them were small ships. There were interceptor craft, there were air cushion vessels, there were vessels required for fast patrol operations. But there was a significant 60 of them from PSUs out of the 160. So there was a participation from public sector as well, more from the private sector. And the biggest ship which was ever produced for the Coast Guard was the pollution control vessel, which has come from the ABG shipyard. So the trend of public-private participation in shipbuilding, as far as defense is concerned, it was nil before 2000. It improved upon, but largely grouped as auxiliary vessels in private yards, and mostly for the Coast Guard, while the big warships continue to be in PSUs, which is, as of today, even it is relevant. Right. Now let us see some more aspects, what happened on this front. The government was very seriously worried about private sector shipyards who had invested so much of money to create the infrastructure. They were getting very small orders from Coast Guard, very small ships, and obviously this revenue was very less, limited, and this had left many of the ships to become bankrupt. The income was far less than the break-even point for the infrastructure which they created. ABG went bankrupt, Bharati, Reliance, now all have become bankrupt, partially due to lack of orders and partially due to non-level playing field in the PPP model which the government is following. Lack of orders, I also meant lack of orders from abroad for commercial ships, because they're free to take both commercial and defense. But they got very little order from abroad also because there was a slump in global shipbuilding. So it combined with that lack of orders from abroad as well as non-level playing field for domestic orders. MOD was very serious with this downturn. So they brought in new policies in 2019. I think these policies have been very well introduced. They have brought in a huge change in the level playing field. Now it is based largely on technical and financial strength of the companies. But the unfortunate thing is there is no private sector shipyard now left. All have withered away except L&T and Shaft. Shaft is a shipyard in the west coast somewhere in Gujarat. and L&T is in Chennai. Except for these two and some few minor yards, rest all have fallen by the wayside. But the government brought in the PPP in 2020. Some came by end of 19, I would say 2020. But it promises to strengthen the PPP. But I think it's a bit too late. It's happened. I don't know what will happen to the shipyards which have already become bankrupt, how they will get revived. Let us see how this can happen. So if you look at today's orders, I have already told you what happened in 2020, 59 ships. If you look at today's orders, there are 50 ships under construction. 40 are for the Navy, 10 for Coast Guard. And out of the 40 for the Navy, all 40 are in PSU, none in private. So all ships of Navy today, till they get built and commissioned, let's say 2025, or it could be 2028, it's going to be PSU, 0 in private. Coast Guard has got 10 ships, out of which 7 are in public sector and 3 in private sector. It so happens all 3 which are remaining are in L&T, which will finish in another 1 year's time because they had been delivering ships on time. So you will find by 2021, there are no ships which are under construction in private sector as far as defense is concerned. I'm not
Admiral Kannan, if my interview,
Sorry?
Admiral Kannan, 2 minutes for to wind up. You're reaching your time.
2 minutes. Okay, so I will. So the pipeline shows, let's come to conclusions. The subsidy scheme of Shipping Ministry has not been a success. As I told you earlier, there needs to be an alternative scheme. Government needs to reactivate commercial shipbuilding through improved indigenous production of machinery and equipment. I already talked about it. In case of defense vessels, MOD took 15 years to evolve a balanced PPP scheme, but by the time, most of the ships have fallen by the wayside. Maybe you can look at some of the public sectors doing both commercial and defense orders so that the efficiency of shipbuilding improves. So way ahead, short term for next 10 years, enhance indigenous content in commercial defense ships, which I mentioned earlier. Sagarmala, government should take a decision, don't import ships. Build it only in India. Even if our shipyards want more time, and even if they are marginally more expensive. But I think they have to take this hard decision. They have to also identify infrastructure augmentation required to some PSUs in case they want to do construction of both and repair of commercial ships. Another point which I'd like government to examine is Navy has got a huge talent in design, and I think this design talent is not being fully exploited. They can extend this design talent to friendly countries for designing their warships. It will also bring in some contracts for shipbuilding automatically. There's already a MOD design house called Nirdesh. It is not very active. Perhaps through that it can be channelized. Long term, beyond 2030, the government should have an objective of transforming India into a lively hub for ship repairs. Today, very little ship repairs are taking place within India. We should look at it. Rest of it all are going to Singapore and Sri Lanka. They should look at how they will be able to transform into a hub for ship repairs. This requires some understanding with the shipyards and improving their facilities if required. And lastly, capture the export market for design and construction of defense ships as well as commercial ships, especially for those countries which are in the Indian Ocean region. We are well located. We have enough shipyards to do this. We have the design talent to do it, but we have to make sure that we are able to capture this potential. With this, we'll be able to improve our maritime potential and go up by a couple of notches on the supremacy in this area, and also have the support of many other IOR countries, nations who will be able to look upon to India for support of their shipbuilding program and ship design program. Also for ship repairs in case they are operating ships in this region. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Jai Hind, and thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Kannan. I think you have very exhaustively covered the state of shipbuilding today in our country, and how we could revive it. And specifically, I brought out the salient aspects of how, with a PPP model and by encouraging the public sector, private sector, in addition to the existing public sector, we could build up a robust shipbuilding industry. We'll see more about this in the question answer session. I'll move on to the next speaker, next panelist. He's going to speak to us on the Indian maritime context, an unending narrative for sea-blind policymakers pre-COVID.
He has also highlighted, and I hope these issues are being addressed sooner than later. And I will answer the comments or the questions in the answer session due to the paucity of time. I'm closing the issue, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Captain Panda. I think you extensively covered what are our security concerns and what we need to go about. We have taken up a little extra time, but I think we'll try and trim it at the question answer session. May I request Aishwarya and team to pose the questions that have come, and please combine it so that the speakers can answer it at one lot.
Thank you, sir. Sir, some of the questions have already been answered in the chat by Mr. Anil Devli. So I'll just go ahead and point out the questions that haven't been answered. The first question is posed by Commodore Venugopal to Admiral B. Kannan. The question is, sir, do you think merging of resources and technical expertise of PSU shipyards under one entity improves the productivity? And the next question is again posed to Admiral Kannan, Vice Admiral Kannan by Amrita Saha. The question reads, to promote agile and efficient defense shipbuilding, L&T has been submitting numerous papers on the topic of PPP model. However, there is a lot of resistance faced from DPSUs like GRSE, GSL, particularly on the cooperation of exports, and we end up losing the program to shipyards like HHI, South Korea, PTPAL, Indonesia, and now even Turkish shipyards in Southeast Asia. What should be GOI's initiative to get over this mistrust and promote genuine collaboration even under LOC? Another question from Commodore Vasan to Admiral Kannan. The question reads, how can we bring in greater private participation? The policies, though available for adopting such course, nothing much has happened. What will make it change?
Yeah, I request Admiral Kannan to answer this, then we'll take on the rest.
Okay. Thank you, Aishwarya. I'll answer the last question first, that is of Commodore Vasan. How do you get higher participation from private sector? As I had mentioned earlier, private sector shipyards, as far as their capacity for commercial shipbuilding is concerned, is limited. And there isn't any program in the country run by Ministry of Shipping for making sure that there is preference being given for Indian shipyards to get the global order, except for the subsidy. I've already told you in the presentation, you have to address the issues of what are the disadvantages like high import content and better design capability within the country so that our shipyards become competitive. That's number one. Number two, as far as defense shipbuilding is concerned, I think level playing field has been fairly well established as of 2020. On paper, the government has committed that they will not nominate any more orders for any shipyard unless it is something to do with the infrastructure. For example, if you want to build another aircraft carrier, you can only go to Cochin Shipyard because they only have the dry dock for it. So I think as far as defense shipbuilding is concerned, there's a level playing field, and whoever can quote the best price will win, be it public or private. As far as commercial shipbuilding is concerned, I have highlighted already that some systemic issues are there, which the country has to get over the next 10 years. I'm giving a time of 10 years. so that they catch up with the other foreign shipyards. So the question from Venu is concerned. Venu, what was the question?
Aishwarya, can you repeat?
Just repeat, Kapado,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One moment, sir. Yes, sir. So the question reads, sir, do you think merging of resources?
Okay, I got the point.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
See, as such, out of 5 PSUs, 4 are under MOD. So they are already under one umbrella. And there is a fair amount of coordination which has been taking place. But I don't think with the level playing field policy which has come in 2020, that need to bother us. Because each shipyard, by virtue of its infrastructure, is carved out for a certain type of ships. And there is, of course, some commonality between GSL and GRSE as far as the size of ships are concerned, and between HSL and CSL for some, again, larger ships. So I don't think bringing them under one roof will help. On the contrary, if you leave them independently, they will struggle and perform better. Otherwise, there's always a feeling of complacency that they will be looked after by the parent. And so I don't think that is required from my side. The third question was from Amrita. Aishwarya, just give me a trigger on that.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. Amrita Saha, yes. To promote agile and efficient defense shipbuilding, L&T has been submitting numerous papers on the topic of PPP model. However, there is a lot of resistance faced from DPSUs
Right.
Yes.
The PPP model, which has fructified in DPP 2020, it has taken us 3-4 years of persuasion at MOD to bring in these clauses by which every shipyard is competing from a level playing field. And as I told you, it's a very welcome move, both on the financial side as well as the technical side. They brought in a lot of factors. And this will give some good results 5 years from now. For the next 5 years, it will be still loaded in favor of PSUs, because PSUs are flush with earlier orders which are nominated, and nominated orders are always overpriced. The Navy pays much more than what they should, and therefore the public sector shipyards have got a lot of money in their hands because the orders are already placed. 5 years from now, those orders will be complete, and all future orders, I presume, if they go by level playing field, then each shipyard will work better. They have to be more efficient, necessarily more efficient to survive. Otherwise, what has happened to the private sector shipyards will happen to public sector shipyards 5 years from now, which the government, of course, will not permit to happen. But definitely good for the customer, good for Navy, good for Coast Guard, and good for any other owner who wants to get it built. You will get your ships built much cheaper than what you're getting it today. And of course, you'll get it on time as well.
Okay, Aishwarya, go to the next set.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This question